Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is Joe Ayers Johnson, Transit and Transportation Planner for Washington County and the Red Rock Corridor Project Manager. I'm joined by my colleague Kurt Howard, who will be providing some support and monitoring the chat for me. I will note one change with the agenda. Jonathan Ehrlich was unable to join us today due to a health issue, so his colleague Ashley Asmus has generously agreed to jump in and give this presentation this afternoon. So many thanks to Ashley there. Before I hand it over to Chair Johnson and we get started with introductions, I wanted to briefly go over some technical details and best practices for this meeting. I will be sharing my screen with the agenda items for all to see, but you are also all encouraged to pull up the materials on your own screens and follow along as well if that's easiest. We do appreciate it if you keep your cameras on, especially when you're speaking, or especially for the commission members, that is. However, please keep your microphone muted while you're not speaking. Please reintroduce yourself when speaking or making motions. I know this might start to feel repetitive or over the top, but it does help the chair and staff members keep track of who is saying what. This meeting will be recorded. It is also being streamed live for the public thanks to SWCTC. So also shout out to Lonnie of SWCTC for his continued collaboration with these meetings. If there are any members of the public joining us on the live stream, welcome to the meeting. We don't typically have public comment during these meetings, but if you have questions or comments, please email them to me. I will respond or pass them along to the appropriate party, and my contact info can be found on the Red Rock Corridor webpage. Alternatively, if it's easier, you can message the Red Rock Corridor on Facebook or post a message there, and I monitor that as well. And at this point, we will begin recording, and I will hand it off to Chair Johnson for some virtual meeting notes and introductions. So thank you.
Are we recording?
We are, yeah.
Okay. Because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Red Rock Corridor Commission is not conducting this meeting at the regular location. Instead, board members will participate in this meeting by phone or other electronic means, and the board meeting will be conducted in compliance with Minnesota Statute 13D.021. Members of the public can monitor this meeting remotely via live web stream found at the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission webpage or swctc.org. All commission members participating in this meeting can hear one another, and all discussion and each member of the commission participating by telephone or other electronic means is considered present at the meeting for purposes of determining a quorum and participating in all other proceedings. So can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
McDonough moves.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please. You're muted there.
Thank you. Yeah, this roll call will also serve as attendance here. Chair Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough.
Aye.
Councilmember Prince.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Dingle.
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede. I think I saw him. Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede, did you say aye there? You give a okay. Looks like that's an affirmative.
We got a wave.
We got a wave. All right, motion passes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the April minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those minutes? And does anybody have any changes or alterations? Otherwise, I will be looking for a motion.
Mayor Dingle, motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have here a second?
Second, Vaughn.
Okay. Did you get, who was the second there, Joe?
Councilmember Vaughn, yes.
Okay, okay. So I'm assuming we have a roll call here too?
Yep. Chair Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough.
Aye.
Councilmember Prince. Misty, Councilmember Prince. I think you're muted.
I missed the last meeting, so I'll abstain.
Okay. Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Dingle.
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede.
Aye. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah, thank you. Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. The next item on there is 2022 work plan and budget, and Joe will be presenting here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Make sure you can all see that. We have prepared a work plan and budget that is more or less the same as the work plans and budgets from the previous 2 years. Essentially, the key work plan items for 2022 include informing state and federal legislators of the need for improved transit service in the Red Rock Corridor, offering guidance, monitoring progress, and preparing formal comments on studies that may impact the activities in the Red Rock Corridor, and then continuing communication efforts through the use of social media and updating the web page. As Washington County staff and Red Rock project manager, my colleagues and I perform most of the outlined tasks, including all communication. So we currently run on an extremely lean budget. I'll note that we designed the work plan and budget to accommodate an expanded role for the commission. For example, should the Route 363 service get expanded and require additional advertising, communication, or outreach efforts, or should new work items come up. However, particularly in light of the continued prevalence of the COVID pandemic, it's not very likely that we'll see an expanded role for the commission this year, and therefore it's unlikely that we'll use the projected budget. But we do prefer to be prepared and plan for it just in case something really takes off. So having said all that, we have a proposed 2022 budget, and I see there's a typo here in the packet. It says 2021. It's supposed to say 2022. We have proposed 2022 budget of $17,000, which is completely and comfortably covered by existing fund balance. That's that conservative estimate. I'm saying that should everything take off, in reality we spend significantly less than that each year. So with that, we request that the commission approve the 2022 work plan and budget, and I am happy to address any questions or comments that the commission members may have. Commissioner Johnson, I think you're muted.
I swore to myself that wouldn't happen to me. But anyway, we're start off before we have any questions or comments. I'd just like to be asking for a motion to approve the proposed 2022 budget of 17,000, correct?
Correct, yeah, and work plan.
And work plan. Do I have a motion?
McDonough moves.
Mayor Dingle, seconds.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Commissioner McDonough, do you have any comments or questions?
Nope, I do not.
Okay. Mayor Dingle, do you have any questions?
No.
Or comments? Okay.
Nope.
Then I'm looking for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough.
Aye.
Councilmember Prince.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Dingle.
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. And then so from this point on, it looks like oh no, we still have one more item, item 5, which is the 2022 proposed meeting schedule. We're back to you, Joe.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we have the proposed 2022 meeting schedule as shown in the packet and on the screen. As things are still pretty month by month with the pandemic, we have reserved space at St. Paul Park City Hall, but we'll still also be planning for virtual meetings as well to be prepared for either eventuality. The meetings are scheduled for 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. on each date, and the requested action is approval of the proposed meeting schedule, and I'm happy to hear any questions or comments on that at this time as well.
Okay, we'll start off with, can I hear a motion for approval of the meeting schedule as presented?
Mayor Dingle, motion to approve.
Okay, can we have a second?
Thiede, second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Mayor, do you have any comments regarding regarding this?
I do not.
Okay. Council member, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you think, now as we go through the year, and I see we have 4 meetings, I'm assuming, is that in the requirements? Is that in the bylaws that there has to be 4 meetings?
That is not in the bylaws. Essentially, there are a couple of official items that need to happen each year. So, for example, we need to elect a chair and a vice chair each year. We need to pass a work plan and a budget each year. I think that might be it actually. So there's limited official business that needs to be done. So over the last year or two, we've been having kind of a spring meeting where we do that vice chair chair election, and then we have kind of a fall meeting where we've been doing that work plan and budget approval. But those are really the only official items that we have right now. So there's nothing in the bylaws that say that we have to have any certain number of meetings, but we do need to conduct that business.
So you said a spring meeting, which would be the April 28th. Is it January 27th? You don't do that?
I've planned for them, and should business come up, we have that on the calendar, and we can certainly have that. Over the last 2 years, especially with COVID, there just hasn't been a lot of business to conduct at these meetings.
Okay.
So in the interest of saving everyone some time, it's just been let's condense those into more of a spring and fall meeting. But we can really do any of these depending on what the commission wants.
Okay. So I see in the comments there where looks like we're still planning on doing it virtually, which I think works great for everybody if we are still able to do that. Because then to be respectful for everybody's time that's being pulled in from different directions. Not that we'd love to be meeting in the St. Paul Park City Hall. I'd like to kind of sit up there at the dais once, but this still works out great for what we have to get accomplished. So we had a motion and we had a second. So if we can get a roll call.
Commissioner Johnson.
Chair,
Aye.
Oh, does someone have a comment?
Sorry.
I do. If I could ask the chair a quick question.
Yeah.
This is Councilmember Vaughn. I kind of get what we're doing. I probably should have asked this during the work plan. We're kind of got some, it sounds like we're in a holding pattern for activity. I'm just trying to put the value on the commission. Can the bylaws even let the commission pause and come back when it needs to, or are we just buying some time until there's activity somewhere?
Well, Joe, you can probably answer that, but I imagine the fear of letting it fall to or even pausing, and that's why I think, the virtual works good. As you know, with the gold line, or not the gold line, but the Red Rock, or not Red Rock, the Great River Rail. I think we still want to keep it on. We don't want to give the impression that it's not being sought after, it's not being desired, it's not being wanted. And I think if we do any kind of my opinion, fallback at all, because I know we have the bonding year coming up this coming year, and we will once again be searching again for money within that bonding, I imagine is what we will be doing. But if we don't show that we are still serious about it by meeting periodically, efficiently, that it will be noticed and we'll be taking the step backwards, I would think. So that would be my answer. If anybody else has different opinions, I'm definitely open to that.
And that's fair. We're not a funding partner, but I see the fund balance is paying for this year's operation. I just look for staff time, and the value of us being a commission. If we're actually moving forward versus just kind of monitoring, can that be done to staff? But it might be too hard to restart the commission. So I see what we're doing here, just using it when we have to. Thank you.
And I think that's a very good trying to start over and get people back on board again. I think it's easier just to keep it as few as we can, but still show we still believe in it. My belief would be the correct decision. Again, if there's any other comments or beliefs on this.
Yeah, this is Joe Ayers Johnson, project staff. I'll just jump in with a couple of notes. Definitely appreciate the question because it's good to ask ourselves that. I think Chair Johnson hit the nail on the head with it's a lot more difficult to come back together around an action or a request in the future than it is to just kind of keep running. With the keep the lights on, so to speak. I know we do want to be respectful of the fund balance and then the funds that people have put in. Like I noted, we run on a really lean budget. It's really just me, and considering that we have at this point 2 meetings a year at a little under an hour a meeting, it's the budget's pretty small for this, and then the insurance, but I think it's like less than $1,000 a year total to keep this commission together, and of course all the time that you all put into it, which I do want to be respectful of that as well. But I do think disbanding would sacrifice some of the political would the political clout, I guess, of the Red Rock corridor would take a hit, and while we are kind of in a holding pattern, a lot not in too far distant memory, we were passing station area plans and getting those incorporated into comprehensive plans, and the next step was working with Metro Transit to bringing increased transit to this corridor, and that really took a hit with COVID. So I think COVID also played a role in setting us back maybe a couple years than we wish we were. But all that's to say, I think Commissioner Johnson made a good summary there, that it's a lot harder to start it back up again when we want to get some action in the corridor than it is to kind of keep the lights on and keep it moving.
Fair point. I appreciate everybody's input, Chair. Sorry. I just think like tonight's agenda item, the education part, if we can add those to the meeting, that's important to me. I know that, to bring in somebody from the Met Council to tell us more. So I think the value is there if you can do that, Joe, is to keep bringing education to us for our time. I think why we're in the whole loop better. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And we aim to have, at least some education per, make it worth people's time to come here, a little bit of education each meeting. So I appreciate that.
And I thank you for the comments. I do know that people know about the Red Rock. I mean, I talked to Congresswoman Craig, or if I talk down at the state, down at St. Paul, or even out at Washington, they have heard of it. So I think, we've gone far enough that it's on the tip, people know it. And as we know what just recently happened, a lot of times they're just searching for places that they want to spend some money, whether it was a build back or program. And if we're there, there's something they can grab to. If we don't even have it there, or it gives the impression that we're not doing anymore, I think it puts us at kind of a disadvantage for something comes up that people are looking to promote. So I think that's where the value is. But definitely, I like the idea with education. So at least if we do meet, let's get something out of it beyond this meeting. So to be here. So any other comments? Great discussion. Oh, Mr. Councilmember Thede.
Yeah, so I would just kind of propose a thought, and I'm in favor of the meetings, but good points have been made both ways, and just a kind of a thought that says, well, if we feel that we're just not going to get anything for quite a few years, is there other alternatives to provide some level of transit through the Red Rock? Just to, and I can share some of this information if people are interested for Cottage Grove. I've had some communication that, first it's actually with companies that use the autonomous vehicles, the little autonomous buses and so forth. And I know that MnDOT has been doing some studies and things like that. And there's one company we've had some discussions with that use the driverless vehicles, but still, for a certain period of time, they have drivers and so forth, and they have programs in different cities. And again, they use more of the smaller, like the 12-person buses and that, and one of the big issues is ridership and how do we fill the big buses. If anybody would be interested in some of this information, I could certainly provide it, and we could put it on a future agenda. But so.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. In that offer. Can we know any others? Okay, roll call, Joe.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Councilmember Prince,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Dingle,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Okay, now we're on to number 6, which is a presentation, COVID-19 impacts on travel trends. I believe you said Ashley is going to from the Metropolitan Council. Is that correct?
That's
That's
right.
me, Ashley
Sorry,
Asmus.
I
Hi.
Sorry, I didn't get your last name there. So you're going to present for us. So thank you.
You bet. Let me see. I'm just on my laptop here, so let me make sure I'm going to present correctly.
Do you have the ability? I think I gave you ability to share your screen, but let me know if you do not, and I'll try something else here.
Okay, great.
There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, I hope this works. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm standing in for Jonathan today. I'm a data scientist at the Metropolitan Council working in the Transportation Services Division. We do a lot of support for long-range transportation planning. So my work mostly revolves around using survey data and also traffic data like this to better forecast and understand how people are getting around the region now and how people will get around the region in the future. Some of the information that we'll be presenting on today comes from MnDOT. We've been using their data to understand freeway traffic trends. And I'll actually present a little bit of transit ridership data as well at the end, so you can get a glimpse of what we're seeing on Metro Transit system anyway. Did this go to the next slide? It's like not showing on my screen. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna trust it. Okay, so the map on your right-hand side is showing you the location of over 2,000 MnDOT traffic sensor nodes that are spread across the entire freeway system. We call this the instrumented system. As you can see, there are plenty right along that Red Rock corridor, and I'll get into a little bit of data about that in a few slides here. I just wanted to touch on what the data kind of are so you can get a sense of what we're working with. It's quite raw when it comes to us. It's an observation of a car going across a sensor every 30 seconds, and we compile those many millions of rows into hourly counts and every 15-minute counts of traffic volumes and also speeds across the whole freeway system. MnDOT does this kind of like on a really fine scale basis. They're really interested in measuring congestion like to the minute, like on their system. I think where Metropolitan Council and our work has come in has been looking at these trends at a more aggregated, like long-term scale. And we've really just started doing this during COVID. And did this analysis to help provide the governor's office with some information about social distancing, how many people were staying at home during the pandemic in the early days. Those data just really didn't exist. And now the data are a goldmine for us in understanding travel patterns. So we used 2018 and 2019 data. It's just 2 years of data. We really should upgrade to use a little bit more, but we've got 2 years of data to estimate a typical volume for every location across the entire freeway system. And so the data I'll show you next are the differences from that typical volume. Did I switch slides?
It doesn't look like it.
It's really strange. How about now?
Yep.
Okay, I just have to press the down button. So the figure here shows you a change from typical traffic volumes for the entire freeway system. The zero line, that horizontal line at 0, is how much traffic we would expect for that day of the year, for that day of the week, if everything else was held constant. You can see it extends from March 2020, that's the first little section of the graph on the left, all the way to October 2021. So it was just updated a couple weeks ago. And you can see we kind of like fell off a traffic cliff right at the beginning of the pandemic. That little gray shaded box is the stay-at-home order period, the strictest portion of the stay-at-home order period for that first month or so. And you can see that traffic volumes declined really precipitously even before the stay-at-home period occurred, all the way down to about 65–70% below normal. That was a combination not only of the stay-at-home orders, but also of some bad weather. We had some weird April, Easter time snowstorms right around that time. Then traffic climbed back up to a first plateau in the summer of 2020. We hung out around 20% below normal for a few months, and we were wondering if we would ever see any recovery. But as you can see, we went through some blips of the holidays and then started climbing again. And we've been on a steady increase in traffic volumes over time that are more and more like volumes that we saw before. The dots that you're seeing kind of dance around the 0 line on the right-hand side that are at or even above typical volumes are usually weekends. So we're seeing weekend travel approximate what weekend travel was like before. And weekdays, meanwhile, are about 6, 7, maybe 10% below normal, depending on the day of the week. But let's see, not all times of the day are made equal. I hope I switched slides. So you should see a new graph here that shows you the change in traffic volumes over time.
Looks like the same slide.
You know what? I think I figured it out. If you'll just indulge me 1 second.
For sure.
Okay. Oh, 1 second. And I want to show you screen 1. Sure. Okay. Okay, great.
Looks good.
Awesome. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, so it's a similar graph as before, but this time I'm showing you separated by time of the day. So the light blue line is showing you trends for the morning period from 7 to 9 a.m. The darker blue is showing you trends for the evening period from 4 to 6 p.m. And the purple line is showing you trends for midday from 11 to 1 p.m. So you can see that that light blue line, the morning period, we've been way below normal, really in a sustained way all the way through the pandemic until school started in September. So now we're seeing that rebound closer to normal levels. So we're at a new plateau now, which is really interesting. And similar with evening travel was lower, but not as low as morning peak period travel. And now we're seeing it, closer to that normal level. Meanwhile, the midday traffic levels, there's lower volume midday, like overall, there's always have been fewer cars on the road in the middle of the day. But we're seeing that traffic volumes are closer to that lower volume over time. And you can see all this messiness right in the end of the year of 2020. So corresponding with the holiday season. Right now, our model of traffic volumes doesn't account for holidays and holiday shopping and all of the errands and travel that go along with that. So that's probably why we're seeing a lot of jagged lines over there. Are there any reflections before I move on from this slide? I kind of wanted to make sure that this one landed for people.
This is Joe. I guess I have a question. What's kind of the takeaway from what do we learn from this?
Yeah. So takeaway here is that, peak period commuters, people going to an office or a workplace at that 7 to 9 a.m. period, like they are probably gone from this mix, or at least more than other people that have different kinds of work shifts or are traveling for other kinds of purposes. But you can see that they're not completely gone, right? So work commuters aren't completely gone. And it's important to remember that work commuters are only about 20% of the picture in here. So even though we've seen a lot of shifts with our schedules, our lives, and even our ability to socialize and hang out with each other in this past year, it's playing out differently across the time of the day. And we're seeing shifts in traffic over the course of the day. It's less succinct than I would have hoped, but go.
Wouldn't
I'll show
you,
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
this is Wayne Johnson. Wouldn't you, since people are not, if they're not in the office and they're working from home, people are trending to or tend to take a break from the home and go out and do things and then head back again since they're not locked into an office. Would that trend be there? Because it does seem like there's a lot of traffic during the middle of the day.
Yeah, we think that is one reason why the midday is trending closer to normal. It could also be people, running different kinds of errands during the middle of the day, or going to shift work that starts at different times. And we also think that it's important to remember that this is only the instrumented freeway system, and some of those shorter errands might not always show up on the freeway system. They might be on smaller local roadways, your neighborhood roads.
Thank you.
I'll get on to your corridors of interest here. This is I-94. So we're showing you on the horizontal axis, it's hours of the day, and every month of the year from March 2020 to October 2021. In each of these little graphs, the blue line is the amount of traffic that we observed for that month, and the dashed line is the amount of traffic that we would have expected to see. You can see that there's generally two peaks in traffic, so in the morning and in the evening. But that morning peak, if we just look at April 2020, for example, that morning peak is much more diminished than the evening peak. And that in some cases, and in a few places, December 2020, for example, on I-94, traffic was just about equivalent with what we had seen before during the middle of the day. But overall, traffic volumes lower on I-94. All right, so we see that difference between the dashed line and the blue line. If I go to the next slide and show you your favorite corridor, we've got Trunk Highway 61 here. You can see that it tells a really different story. These lines are a lot closer together. There's been a lot more traffic, closer to normal levels of traffic on Trunk Highway 61 overall throughout the entire pandemic. And in a lot of cases, we're seeing higher traffic volumes this year than we did in 2018 or 2019, especially the middle of the day. So May 2021, here we see that midday traffic is exceeding typical levels from 2018 to 2019. And even in October, we're seeing these midday traffic levels meet or exceed previous historical traffic levels for this whole corridor. So it's not the same everywhere across the region, and corridors are serving different kinds of trips and different kinds of travelers, depending on who's on them. So Highway 61 is a good example of a corridor that's been really resilient to the pandemic, or has continued to serve a lot of travelers despite all of the disruptions we've seen.
Let me interrupt you. It looks like Mayor Dingle has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. One of the questions I have, or things that I ponder here, are the lack of buses, and especially on Highway 61 or Corridor 61, you talk about the traffic trends, but there aren't any. There's one express bus a day, and so people are just driving because they don't have the opportunity to take public transit. There's no circulator anymore that goes through St. Paul Park or the Newport Transit Station, or a bus leaving from the transit station. So again, those folks that maybe would not be counted as a traffic because they'd be sitting on public transit are now on the roads. So I mean, it's really hard to nail down the data in what we're looking at, but just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it would be so amazing to know how many of these auto commuters, how many of these people on Highway 61 used to ride the bus,
Exactly.
or could be convinced to ride the bus in the future.
That'd be good.
Yeah, we'd love that. All right, so again, just showing you a little bit of the geographic variability in traffic across the system. This time, the cooler colors show you greater reductions in traffic, and warmer colors correspond to increases in traffic. And you can see or I'll actually shift and zoom in. You can see that right around Cottage Grove, like we're actually seeing increases in traffic along these entrances and exits right here along Highway 61. Yeah, just corresponding with more traffic getting on here and probably continuing to use this road when fewer options are available. All right, just want to highlight a few studies that are ongoing. There's this really cool one coming out of MnDOT called the Tipping Point Study. They're asking what COVID-19 travel reduction will tell us about effective congestion relief. They're going to do a really detailed statistical analysis of traffic volumes and congestion levels on the whole MnDOT system to understand what amount of reduction in traffic volume will completely eliminate peak period congestion. So if we could take 5, 6, 7% of vehicles off of the roadway, would that reduce our need to spend a lot of money to reduce congestion or address congestion in other ways? How much can telework or shifting people to off-peak times fix that problem for us? They're expected to have some results for that early next year, early 2022. So keep an eye out for that. That might be a good one to bring on for some education here. Heard you talking about that. And then here at the Metropolitan Council, we have our own travel behavior inventory household study. This survey is currently in the field, so we actually have sent out invitations starting in the summer, and we'll be continuing to send out invitations to people all the way through 2022. This is a whole blanket household survey, so we're inviting a random sample of households in the region to participate, and we ask them to track their travel over the course of up to 7 days using a smartphone app or an online web survey. They tell us like where they're going and why, who's traveling with them. And we also ask them some behavioral and work questions. So we're really going to be looking closely to see if any basic travel patterns have changed since COVID-19. We can compare this directly to our 2018 to 2019 household survey, not of the very same people, but also of a random sample of households in the region. And one thing I'm especially excited to look at is at telecommuters to figure out if people who work from home are traveling less or maybe traveling more because travel patterns have shifted around how they spend their time and get around. So we'll expect some results from that in the middle of 2022. We'll have some raw data early on that we can do some analyses on, but the better stuff will come out next summer. Yeah, a few words here about telecommuting. This is just coming from the census, the current population survey, looking at June 2020 and May 2021. So from last summer to this past summer, we saw the unemployment rate decrease by about 5%. The number of people who were employed increase, and the number of people who were telecommuting shrink. So people who were exclusively telecommuting were about 27% of the workforce, of the workforce in June 2020, now only about 15%. So definitely in the minority here. And we'd like to understand how this will vary by industry and crucially geography. So suburban, urban core folks, and different demographics who has access to telecommuting type jobs, period. And then what are the effects of travel behavior and how much people drive. Okay, I promised a few slides on transit ridership. These are coming from Metropolitan Transit, from Metro Transit. They've been tracking ridership during the pandemic as well. And they've got 3 different route types here. So express buses in red, rail in green, and local buses in blue. You can see that just like driving, there was a really sharp decrease in the number of people riding the buses at the beginning of the pandemic, but that depending on the route type, there's been something of a rebound. So local buses, especially, the ridership has been waxing and waning over the course of the summer, but in the recent month, especially with the return to school, we're seeing K through 12 school, we're seeing more people riding the buses. This is especially due to high schoolers and students taking the bus to school right now. Meanwhile, yeah, express bus is lagging the most here in terms of ridership, but that could also be service cuts. All of these are facing service cuts right now, and I think there's also a driver shortage that's affecting some of these numbers. So there's a lot at play here, but yeah, those are the numbers as they stand. I also wanted to pull out the BRT numbers in particular. So here we've got the transit ridership by route class instead of route type. And over here in the left-hand side is showing you the same sort of trend graph for BRT. As of October 2021, BRT is down about 25% compared to local bus, which is down 42%, and light rail is down about 65%. So BRT has been the most resilient of all of these route classes. The service has been maintained, of course, because they've served so many riders, period. But yeah, it's been resilient overall, even throughout the pandemic. And of course, similar to the trends that we saw on the highways or on freeways, we're seeing changes to when people take the bus. But the changes are really driven by student patterns, so which has been super fascinating to see. So over here, we've got hour of the day in sort of 24-hour format, and the red line is showing you the latest ridership numbers by hour, and the black line in back, which is years over here, this is showing you typical ridership or boardings per hour. And yeah, you can see that the hourly boardings, they peak at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. So we've shifted peak service times, especially in the afternoon, from 5 to 3. So back by a couple of hours here, which is pretty cool to see. I've been riding the buses a little bit to survey people who are taking transit right now. We're doing a ridership study. And yeah, talked to a lot of high school students who have, because of school bus cuts, have been taking the bus to school. And wow, their commutes are quite complex for a 14-year-old.
Sorry, 1 second. Commissioner Johnson, did you have your hand up here?
Mm-hmm.
I did, and then I kind of wrote you a note that I think that slide that showed the bus rapid transit compared to everything else would be very, I think they would like to see that number, considering we get talking about the gold line, and that coming back or having more resilience than any of the other forms of transportation. I think they'd like to see that if they haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, good point. Ashley, could I get these slides off of you after the meeting?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I should say it's even rosier if you just look at the A line that runs through the middle of St. Paul. I think that was down like 15% relative to baseline. So yeah, depending on the route, it's COVID hasn't changed too much. Okay, and this one's just fun. This is my last slide here. This is the project I've been working on in conjunction with an electric vehicle study that we're doing at the Metropolitan Council. And we've been thinking about, like, God, who do we want to target electric vehicles to? Like, who in our ideal world would trade in a gas car or, sell a gas car and use an electric vehicle instead? And one demographic we might target, I think, are people who just drive a whole dang lot. And there's a lot of them. So on the x-axis here, I'm showing you the percent of drivers on a cumulative basis, and I'll go over what that means in a second. And on the y-axis, the percent of vehicle miles traveled in the whole region. So if you get all the way up to the top right corner over here, 100% of drivers account for 100% of all of the VMT in the region. But if I shift all the way back to the middle where these two dashed green lines meet, you can see it's not a straight line, it's a curved one. And actually 16% of drivers account for 50% of the regional VMT. So it's like, here's my dream scenario, right? If we can get these 15% to use electric vehicles, to shift away from driving and towards other modes, to use the bus more, to use trains, how can we get them out of their cars and into more sustainable and pedestrian-friendly ways of travel? That's all I got for you. Here's Jonathan's email address. So yeah, I'll just blame him for any discrepancies in these slides. You can just email him about. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll send this slide deck out for you all to peruse later.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Really liked that. Enjoyed that. Do we have anybody with any specific questions? I know we asked along the way. Did anybody else have others? Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some good information in there. And so thank you for that. And so we will move on to item 7, communications update. Back to Joe. You kind of dominate the meeting here today.
Yeah, I do. Makes it nice and streamlined, so we can get out of here faster for everybody here. Again, many thanks to Ashley. She might have jumped off already, but really appreciate her joining us kind of last minute there to give that presentation. There's not a lot of communication news to give you an update on. The Red Rock Corridor Facebook page has 380 likes and a total of 400 followers as of this afternoon. That's slightly higher than it was when I wrote the memo, so we're going up. Staff aims to keep the page active by posting transit-related news 1 to 2 times a week. And happy to answer any questions if anybody has any on that.
As long as you're trending up, that's a good thing.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
So, thank you. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? So, okay. And the next item, number 8, is under other commission reports. Does anybody wish or have anything that they'd like to share? Don't all speak at one time here. So, okay. Then the next item is the next meeting pending approval, in which we approved, which would be January 27th, 2022. And that again will be if we have something of value to share and provide. So, you know, if we, with this virtual stuff, we don't have to get out in the cold. We don't have to show that dedication we used to have to show. So, next item is adjourn. And I think with this one, I can just adjourn, correct?
I think you need a motion in a second.
Oh, do you still want a motion on this one? I'm still getting a handle of which one I can and can't do that in. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
McDonough moves.
Okay. Do
Mayor
we have a
Dingle, second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call for adjournment. Is that correct?
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonough,
Aye.
Councilmember Prince,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Dingle,
Aye.
Councilmember Thede,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, everybody. Great meeting.
I can't believe there
Good
wasn't
job.
one person that wanted me to keep talking. So.